want to start by asking you a little bit about your background, your early life, where you were born, a bit about your childhood. Can you do that for us?
How long have you got?
We've got quite a long time, haven't we? No,
Okay, all right, thank you. Early childhood. Broken home, like many people, and probably not as bad as so many people, but broken home from a baby. Grew up in very insecure, very nervous. Always said from a young child, nobody ever loved me. That's how I felt. I don't feel that now, but that's how I felt then. And very angry. Really had a chip on my shoulder. So it was a very insecure childhood. My mum and dad would always be getting back together, breaking up again. They used to lock me in a bedroom at night because I used to wander. And I was afraid of the dark. It's a very small child now, talking about. And I was terrified of the dark, and I used to sit on the bed in the corner, trying to focus on maybe the corner of the room, and I was absolutely, really scared. And of course, being locked in didn't help. So throughout my childhood, we never went anywhere, we never saw anyone. I think the furthest I ever went was up the road, which was an expedition on the top of the road. So kind of damaged, like so many people, so many. That sort of followed me through school life. I was very thin at school, very thin, and from day one, really, I used to get picked on. I was never a fighter. So as a result, people would bully me. Some people would say, well, why didn't you fight back? I tried, but, I was always bullied. And that didn't help with my attitude problem. So this carried on, trying to think now, into teenage years. Took a few overdoses of tablets, not to kill myself, caught for attention.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to die. I thought I did at the time, but after they pump your stomach and put with a thick tube in the hospital, it tends to make you think, I don't really want to do this. And salt water, glasses of salt water down your throat, neat, not very nice. So I did that several times, and I was just generally a very unhappy person. It affected my education. I left school. And I could only write my name. I couldn't spell anything. Wow. So I went to college and, managed to get myself to a reasonable level afterwards. But it was always this deep feeling of unloved, didn't fit in, on the outside looking in. Everybody else is okay, and of course they're not, but I thought that. And why am I different? What is it about me? Am I so bad looking? Or, I used to think it was kind of my fault, I suppose, in a way. So anyway, as I got older, I used to sort of drink sometimes. And when I used to drink, I used to go to clubs, and I'd end the night with, I wanted to, even though I said at school I was always picked on, I wanted to fight in the clubs. Oh, wow. So I would always remonstrate, the correct word is, I would argue with the bouncers at the end of the night, and so much so that I can remember one incident where I'd aggravated this set of bouncers so badly that the one guy, he was sweating with putting his handkerchief on his face, and they were holding him back and said, he's going to kill it if you don't get out of here, And very often the clubs would be downstairs, so you had to kind of try and get upstairs, and often the bouncers are at the top. And you got one sort of wandering around the club, and this was sort of at the door. But anyway, so incidents like that. And I think what it was, I wanted them to beat me up because I already felt sorry for myself. Yeah. And I thought, if they beat me up, I can feel even more so. It's crazy stuff. This is mad stuff to sensible people, So that's all happened. Later down the road, I got married, and then we got in.
Can you wave? There she is, this beautiful
long-suffering lady. So I got married, and we started to get into occult matters. It was a neighbour said, would you like to try,
How old were you at this point?
Probably about 20, I think.
Right, okay.
And we started getting into these occult matters and having seances in our flat. Then we used to we'd feel we got a presence in the flat, and you'd have like lights switching on and off at night, knocking on the door, muffled knocks on the door, nobody there, blood appearing in the sink, all sorts of funny things. All your appliances would go in threes, bad luck like you wouldn't believe. And this went on for quite a while. Then
Is that because you were looking for something?
yes, searching, always searching. Then I became a Christian.
So tell us how that happened.
Desperation, really. I realised how bad my life was. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like me. I didn't like people like me. I deplored people like me. But I was like that. I was so angry. It's so bitter, so twisted. Didn't generally like people. I just felt life had given me a raw deal, and it was all about me. It's selfish. But that's. I'm just being honest. That's who I was, and how I felt. So I'm thinking now.
So did you go to a church?
Yes, went to Sedgley Christian Fellowship.
Right, okay.
Baptised in the river of Aston Cantlow in Henley and Arden.
Wow.
The police thought we were very interested, why we were being dumped in the water.
Did somebody invite you to church, or was it just a pull inside that you knew you had to find something real?
I can't remember. I think I know I was searching, and even as a little boy, when I was being bullied, I'd always ask the Lord to protect me, and by and large, He did. And you may, some people say, "Oh, you got no guts, you're yellow," and all that. And why couldn't you stick up for yourself? I tried, but I couldn't. I just, I just couldn't seem to do it. So I think I was just always kind of believing there was something there, and kind of searching really.
So when you went to the church, what happened?
Well,
did you know instantly that you wanted Jesus as your saviour?
I did. The biggest problem I always had was doubting that there was a God, in spite of it. And I thought, if I trust Him, and then I find He's not there, I'm going to be worse off still. Now at least I believe in something. But if I pray a certain thing and everything doesn't happen the way it should, I'm just going to know there isn't a God, and I'm going to be worse off. And so that's one of the reasons I didn't fully commit myself. Then after that, after I'd become a Christian, unusually I think this was, and being baptised, I backslid, and I went back into seances again, believe it or not. And I used to travel across the city and go to this house. And again, things used to happen. And I got back into it again. Then, shortly after that, I had an encounter with a flying saucer. I mean, they are real. I believe now they are demonic. I've done a lot of research, and that's my belief. But it followed me home, it waited for me, it came down over my head, and there was an encounter. And the whole thing lasted about an hour. And then I became obsessed with flying saucers for about 3 years. I couldn't think of anything else. I was out in the garden looking for it, never came back. So there was all sorts of things going on like this. So my education was affected, and I just wasn't a very nice person at all. And gradually, it's been a gradual thing. I just knew I needed the Lord.
Yeah.
Now, fast forwarding, present day, I'm so happy. Every day is an excitement and I've just had, as you know, a heart attack a year ago, and they put stents in my heart, and then they discovered I'd got cancer, so they took away part of the liver, and that could come back in a few months, it may be a few years. But the fact is, I live for every day. I'm just so happy all the time. The knowledge that absolutely 100% Jesus Christ is alive. He died for my sin. And I always think of that song, you know, we stand there in robes we don't deserve.
Yeah.
I don't deserve anything that's been done for me. You know, I was...
How did you break free of all this stuff? Because there are people here
Right.
who are wrapped up in things they desperately want to get rid of and they don't know how to do it. So what brought you to the point where you could finally walk
Jesus
with
gradually
Jesus?
showed me I was loved. And it came, a lot of it came within the fellowship I was in.
Right.
And here even. You know, I feel I just love people now. I feel I want to tell people, though I'm not very brave at sort of saying it to people, but I know what it feels like to feel that thing goes deep. Even though I was married, even that didn't do it. It's a deep thing inside you, and I'm sure the enemy uses it. He knows what buttons to press.
Yeah.
He's had history, thousands of years to see humankind and how they react to certain things. And I really believe in the demonic. I believe, because I've seen stuff, so I know it's out there. But I just equally know that Jesus lives, and it's just so awesome. As to how I actually got free of it all, it's been gradual. Now, one thing that I still have, two things in fact. One is when I come to church, just like this one, Steve, when people are praying, such as Steve or yourself, I always fall asleep, and my wife will constantly be, you know, she'll be knocking me. It always seems to happen, and I don't know why it happens. It used to happen at the other church. I can't say as soon as the ministry starts, but as soon as, you know, whether I'm just affected by the heat, I don't know, but it always happens. And the other thing that I've been left with, I think, as a result of my past life, is nightmares, bad nightmares.
Right, okay.
I wake up screaming most nights for years. If we're on holiday, if we're not on holiday. And like the other evening, I actually saw in my dream, I saw the demon. And it's not nice. It's horrible. And I've never really feel that I've got free of it, if I even need to get free of it. It's just something that happens to me. It doesn't happen to my wife. You know, she can sleep through it. And then if I'm sort of writhing in the bed, you know, she'll wake me up and takes a bit of pleasure in slapping my face to to get me round, you know. And but it's pretty bad at night. So those two like byproducts of, I think, the past. I don't know. But as far as how I actually got free of it, it's been gradual.
Yeah.
And I always ask the Lord, show this to me today, you know. And at first it was show me I'm loved. Well, I know I'm loved. I know that. And the ultimate sacrifice is Jesus' love for me. If I'd been the only one, he wasn't, you know, he wasn't just punched. He was butchered, sustained over hours and days. He was butchered and tortured. No man could have took what he took, however tough they are. They couldn't have took that. And he did it willingly. And he was afraid, I think, because in the Garden of Gethsemane he was sweating blood, asking if there was any way he could be taken away, but he still was prepared to do it.
Yeah.
That should make me want to love him, and it does, but it's not my love, it's his love for me.
Yeah.
You know, it's nothing I can do. It's down to him and to the Father's love and the Father's grace. So it's been gradual. I'm still a work in progress.
Aren't we all?
Aren't we all? There's nobody got it 100%.
No.
But I know from the place I was at, this horrible place, feeling unloved. And I used to say it every day, and well, nobody ever loved me. And I was so bitter, so angry. And anybody else that was happy, I was jealous of.
Yeah.
You know, my own family as a result, I had problems in that my kids weren't particularly fond of me because of the way I was with the drink. They love me to bits now. We're having a big get-together Thursday. You know, we have
Wonderful.
10, 12, 15, even 25 people at our house. And they, you know, they love me so much, and me them. So I've built a lot of bridges, and they, you know, have accepted that I didn't want to be that way. So
we're going to pray for you in a minute, but before we do, if this was the last thing you could say to everybody here,
right.
what would you say to folk? What have you learned? What do you
What
want
have
them
I
to
learned?
know?
You can spend your life being selfish, and it's all about me and thinking about you, what you can have, what you can do, how you look, and all the rest of it. But there's so much sadness out there. We lost our granddaughter, 17 and a half, with a brain tumour.
Oh, wow.
We prayed that she would be healed. She wasn't. That doesn't mean there's no God.
No.
That meant that's his call. That's up to him.
It is
That's
up
not
to
for
him.
me to question.
Amen.
So that beautiful child, you know, she was a young woman. She was absolutely gorgeous in her heart. Lovely to look at. Always apologising, even apologising for vomiting the night she died to her mum. There's so much sadness in the world. There's so much unhappiness out there. We should grab with both hands, embrace and pull towards you every bit of happiness, and for what you can have, but what you can give to others. That's what I've learned, to give of myself, to give of my love. That's what I would say to everybody. And don't hold back in talking about Jesus, in asking for help. Don't feel you're on your own. You know, with what I've said about myself, and it wasn't just a one-off. This was years and years and years. It was a lifetime of unhappiness and of hating myself and just wondering why I was even here. I know why I'm here now.
Yeah.
And I know I've got eternal life, and I shall be with the Father in eternity and with Jesus Christ. And you know,
What
it's
a great
just
testimony.
Absolutely awesome.
So no one's too far away then to
And
find Jesus.
I think there are people far, far worse than me, people that don't nearly get into fights. They do. They're in and out of prison.
Yeah.
There are kids that are brutalised, that are murdered. Mine is nothing. But to me, I was asked to give a testimony. I've given it.
Wonderful.
To me, it's that's my story anyway. And
Can I tell you that we have loved having you at our church.
I know
and
you.
we
Thank
see
you.
nothing but Jesus in you.
Thank you.
You have added something to this fellowship. You brought joy. You've brought love and kindness and goodness. And we see Jesus in you.
Thank
and
you
we'd
very
like
much.
to pray for both of us. Can you join us? And perhaps the leaders of the church will come. And we're going to pray for you that God will continue the work he started in you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.